All right. My name's Jesus, Daylife Jesus, and we're gonna do another one of these watch-along videos. We're gonna be watching Kira TV's little clickbait kind of attempted cancellation of the Daylife Army. So yeah, it should be fun. It's actually not a new cancellation, really. It is pretty much all of the source material that is used in the video basically came from the 2020 cancellation, which some of you probably saw, written by Emily Friedlander, like for Medium. So it's a lot of the same information, but made into like a clickbait video. And yeah, we're gonna watch it together. All right, so here we go.
You wake up every day with visions of the future, plans to make it big in the music business. You have an idea for a brand, and you're full of optimism. You know good things are coming. All you need is an audience. The first songs on your album are finished, and it's time for the world to hear them.
I like how it like starts with all this really cringe footage of Boom from what I like have to assume is post-cult activity of him rapping in like an alien sweatshirt, like a dark in a garage. Like, is he thriving now? I'm not sure, but that's is that what we're supposed to be led to believe, that he's now thriving post-cult, or that this is like where he started? None of this video is like chronologically accurate, which is I mean, none of it is accurate at all, but even like the glimmers of like something that may have happened are presented in just it makes no sense. But all right, we're gonna continue.
Before you know it, you're living in a car on the street, selling your body to pay for the lifestyle of your general.
Never happened.
In an intergalactic army. How? Cult, a term for a social group that is defined by its unusual religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs and rituals, or its common interest in a particular personality, object, or goal. The term first appeared in the English language in 1617, derived from the French word for worship, which itself came from the Latin word cultus, to care, cultivate, and worship.
So yeah, Daylife Army like is not hiding that it is a cult. Neither is Temple. And like, for if anything, this is kind of just like PR for the fact that yeah, the word cult just means to grow, to cultivate. I mean, that definitely, you know, this Wikipedia article says like Latin cultus means cultivation, but cult, the word cult means to grow. So yeah.
It wasn't until a few hundred years later that the word started to take a more nefarious and almost entirely negative connotation.
When the CIA
word
got
now
involved.
is synonymous with evil. Everyone will be familiar with at least one story of a famous cult, and that story will likely involve, at the very least, human trafficking, sexual, physical, and mental abuse, oftentimes with much more considerable crimes. Cults exist to prey on the vulnerable, people that are desperate to belong, that are lost in life and uncertain of their place in the world. They provide people with purpose, with answers to questions. Nobody really joins a cult. Instead, they're recruited.
By the way, basically the vibe is stay purposeless, stay lost, never find yourself, never find out what's going on. Just wander by yourself. As long as you do any of this like soul searching, as long as you just do it alone, which is kind of what the internet has I mean, and just to, you know, last capitalism, last communism has created, is just like a solo journey. As long as you do it alone without other people, you're good. It's not dangerous at all.
Once inside, it is incredibly difficult to leave, in part because cults will often psychologically break you down until you know nothing but what they preach to you, and in part due to the expected process of alienating yourself from your prior life, which is usually a way to show commitment to the cause. Often you give up all your worldly possessions to appease the leaders, you'll alienate yourself from your friends and family, and you'll be thoroughly convinced that the collective are the ones that have your best interest at heart.
It's also like this idea that a collective is like has anything to do with a cult. Like you're joining like a democratic process. This is not like Day Life Army, to be clear, is not an autonomous zone. It is not like a Seattle, you know, we're just gonna set up tarps on the concrete and grow our own vegetables and let the collective decide anything. And you know what, if there happens to be someone who gets shot for driving through the zone, you know, it's all good. That's what a collective is. A collective is some hippie potluck bullshit. So yeah, I mean, this cult has nothing to do with collective. It has nothing to do with, you know, the collective determining anything. So if anything, you know, we, it's a low hierarchy and we just do a general co-assess and it works. So just to be clear, not a collective.
The influence a cult leader wields over a recruit is a terrifying prospect.
Look at all these
especially when
videos
you examine the
about people having
characteristics
fun.
of said cult leader. Charismatic, narcissistic, socio or psychopathic, and completely delusional. In modern day, the reach of a cult is
okay. So we actually use delusional as is not a negative term to us. My question to you out there in the delusional world and the illusional world is like, how is it working? Are you happy? Is everything good with zero delusion in your life? Just living realistically within your means? Is that all? Are you being given the things that you actually need? Yeah. How is that working out? Is delusion really the enemy here? Just some things to comment on. Fire off in the comments. Let me know where you're at with all of it.
Greater than it has ever been. Prior to the internet, a cult would be limited in their recruitment tools via proximity to victims. With social media, their reach is global. It's infinite. This is exactly how...
Another thing, I feel like I have to stop this video like every 20 seconds because it is chock full. It's chock full of juicy tidbits. The internet has not made people more sure. Okay, so the internet has provided millions of cults at your fingertips in addition to the cults that you're already part of, that you already have signed up for, that you don't know how to get out of, that you didn't even know that you were in, that you never gave permission to be in. Sure, the internet will give you Bored Ape Yacht Club and a million DAOs and, you know, whatever community that you're part of through. Yeah, it's a cesspool, the internet. But like people in cults used to, you know, people used to like meet up. People used to live IRL lives separated from computer screens, separated from phones. Like in the old days, and sure, granted, these were like a lot of them were cults created by the CIA. I'm not you know, glorifying any of them, but people were like not alone. People were going and doing things with other people. Literally, the internet has made that so that people do not do that at all. This is like the only internet cult to like successfully go IRL, and the internet is actively there to keep you in your little box, just, you know, looking at your Black Mirror, consuming everything there, not bonding with other people, because that's, I guess, really dangerous to the agendas. I won't even say which agendas, because, you know, it's a fun video and I'm not even that guy. Okay? Alright, continuing on.
How Kimberly Laura Melon and Eben Carlson recruited people into what they called the Day Life Army, going from a Facebook group to a human trafficking cult. Eben Carlson, born 1967 in Seattle, grew up
no mention about where the human trafficking occurs. Just flash the word at the beginning of the video. Don't go on to, you know, have any citations of anything. Like I said, this was just taken basically from an existing article. So it's basically an algorithm now that makes like viral videos like this that just take shit. And you know, it's refreshing to get like an obviously, you know, kind of sad British man being the guy who's, you know, doing this instead of the usual white women that we have. And you know, he did. I paused at the right moment because I would have forgotten, but it does say Seattle, Oregon on here. So all the people in the comments being like, you really did your research. You're such a good storyteller. Like, didn't even really bother to figure out where Seattle was. So yeah, Seattle, Oregon, 1967. It's pronounced Eben, not Eben, but all right, let's keep going.
An obsession of fame and music. He thought his destiny was to make it, to become like that of his idols. After many failed career attempts as a DJ, an author, and a graphic designer, things were not working out as he had hoped. Of course, it was not his fault. It was the world's fault. In 2013, Coulson started posting.
Is it a
on
bad
Facebook
thing
under
that he
the name
stopped
bashing
chasing satanic
monoculture
dreams?
and of
I
course,
don't know.
capitalism. These were the things he deemed
It's
responsible
Wiesel, by the way.
for his own mediocrity. It wasn't long before Wiesel had found like-minded individuals. After all, misery does love company. Enter Kimberly Laura Melon, aka Koa.
Oh yeah. Anyone who's ever met General Koa, the first thing that comes to mind when meeting her is like totally a miserable person. Same with Wiesel, just misery. It's just misery. Just that's what they have for each other. Absolutely. Go watch a couple YouTube videos. You'll just be filled. It's misery.
Her great-grandfather was a violinist, one of her brothers is an influential DJ in LA, and the other is part of a famous indie rock band. Koa herself studied music and acting in college, but never fully committed to a career in the business. Instead, she hopped from idea to idea with some initial success before ultimately fizzling out and moving on to whatever came next. In 2005, she opened a bar in Tacoma, which closed a few years later, and following that, she became a sex coach, calling herself, quote, a goddess of love.
Goddess in love. Just gonna stop the video again. It says it right on the screen. From the page, it says goddess in love, not goddess of love. You're really bad at making video. Like, that's the goddess in love. In love. Okay.
That is when she crossed paths with Wiesel online. The two of them quickly realized they had so much in common, not just a love of music, but also a view on
like where did the
society and
love of
culture
music part
that didn't fit
come in
the
there?
world that they were currently inhabiting. The solution was then simple: to create their own. The first steps were obvious: find other like-minded individuals, or at least people that were malleable enough to mold in their image.
Not like meticulously make sure that, you know, the thing has its own cosmology, not working on standards. No. First thing, just go get other people. I'm not gonna tell their story because that's like a whole thing. But yeah, that is not exactly how it went.
But how? Well, in 2014, that one's obvious too. A Facebook group. And so it was created, a place to share mystical rituals and beliefs, but most importantly, to find disciples.
Exactly what it was.
And to your surprise, this worked out. They were soon gaining followers who were happy to adopt their guidelines known as standards. No, that is not a mistake. Standards is a word from their own language, which they called Unglish, a creation of the duo where they would substitute random vowels by U and Y. And the reason they did this was very obvious. They believed that regular English was racist. Why?
Is that obvious? And also, that was, yeah, that's, I don't even know where to start with that one. Where and with this whiteness and maleness, where I don't think that's ever been mentioned in any of, you know, in any Temple discourse, English discourse. I mean, the term the Queen's English is brought up a lot. White male queen. I mean, if you're into, you know, P-trans theory, I'm sure you could put something together with that. I don't think this YouTube guy is doing that though. So, yeah.
Why was it racist? Well, it was made by and for white males. The group's standards were as follows: only wear white or light coloured clothing, use only unscented products and objects.
Okay, what, this is another thing for the comments, like, what scented objects are you really attracted to? Like, I know about, like scented products we talk about all the time, but, like, what are the scented objects that you're like, what is it? I mean, I guess a scented candle is an object, like, but it just, when I hear scented object, I just think about, like, something in your house that just, like, I don't know, like a water bottle that smells like strawberries, or what is it? What are the scented objects that people are so attached to? I don't think that term came from anything that has ever been used here. But let's keep going.
Have perfect hygiene and cleaning habits. Go digital. Remove all analog materials from your life. Never wear vintage or second-hand clothing or items. And be sober. You cannot do drugs or alcohol, have pets, wear wool or leather, eat food additives, use bleach, etc. But, of course, you can smoke weed.
You can't
On top of these standards that followers would adhere to, there were also rituals. One such ritual was called white stone. The process of white stone is simple, but only possible for men to participate. You close your eyes and you concentrate real hard. Visualize what you want to achieve in life. Meanwhile, you masturbate into a cup. Upon completion, you end the ritual by consuming the contents of the cup.
So, in my experience in Day Life Army, that has never happened. But it sounds pretty lit for like a YouTube video, and I can understand that a repressed British guy who's lonely editing videos for his YouTube might like want that to be the case, and I'm sure it has that being like a thing that people think is going on here does like get people to want to do this, but it is absolutely not really what's happening. If you have real questions about how, if anything like that is okay, like even this Whitestone Protocol thing that's on here says nothing. It says hold the door, like it says nothing about jerking off into a cup and drinking it. But, if that's what you want to talk about in this video, go for it. Ask some questions. Like, it's your world. It's your journey.
Having the guidelines set up and the rituals in place, the Facebook group was seeing traffic. In large part, people who thought it was all a joke. How could it not be? This led to the next phase of the plan. Their method was to find people who were crying out for attention, people that were invisible to what they craved, validation and an audience for their art. Wiesel would scour websites like Twitter for young artists and then begin his manipulation. The idea was to find the most vulnerable and then bombard them with what they wanted the most. It began with compliments on their work, then moved to constructive criticism. The next step was to dangle their dreams in front of them. Wiesel would claim he could make them famous. In 2013...
To be fair, Matthew Farrell is famous in a certain... fame isn't really what it used to be. Satan doesn't just hand out fame like he used to be unless you are a certain family line, bloodline, unless you do this, and this. But boom, Matthew... he did not get what he was looking for in a way. He just chose to be famous in the pain matrix for being a victim. Which is, I guess if fame is the thing from all of what, Day Life Army gives people, if fame is the thing that you latch onto, like, he got it, he got, it may have helped, like, get a few downloads on the SoundCloud account, so... Wiz being like, I'm gonna make you famous, was it really, I think it was taken out of, the way it really happened wasn't exactly how what would have been healthy for Matthew, but he took it in his own way. He spun it and decided to do it in his own way, and that's everyone's choice when they leave.
13, this worked on the very first victim, Matthew. He'd just turned 18 and was a freshman in music business studies. Matthew had dreams of changing the world with his music, and he posted videos that depicted a utopia on this earth. Wizel.
What was the videos that he posted that depicted a utopia on this earth? Oh, like the Matt Saves the World content? I don't know about that. That's just too deep even for this video. Like, I don't even know what that means, but...
Took notice. He began praising Matthew's work, but also offering criticism regarding anything that didn't further the goal of Matthew's success. Koa also joined in on this barrage of seeming support. At that time, Matthew was starved for attention, and these two strangers were offering such assistance that it became overwhelming.
I like how it's like assistance. They were helping. He was overwhelmed by older people doing the role that, you know, older people do in younger people's lives, which is like assist them in being a person. Now this thinks they gave a shit about his music career, which is hilarious to think. Like like Wiz and Koa do not give a shit about any Pain Matrix career that you have going on. But yeah, the idea that like someone being a supportive person is bad is funny. It is what keeps people deculted and just, you know, going and being individuals trying to live that, you know, individualistic life in a world that doesn't pay anymore. I'm not saying it never did, just not anymore.
When he checked their background, even more so. These were the mentors that could change his life, and he was right, just not in the way he expected. They're paying more attention to me than I am, he thought. Shortly after these exchanges on social media began, the pair pushed for more personal communication in the form of phone calls, which Matthew was happy to oblige. Before long, they'd managed to convince him to change his musical name to Bum, and began planning to meet in person.
It was... Okay, they did not change his name. They did not convince him to change his music name to Bum. First of all, it's the name that was given to him was Boom Boom, and it wasn't. It was like a name. It was a name. It had nothing to do with a musical project. Now, it's obviously a big glow up from Matthew Farrell which is clear in that, you know, it is a piece that. Matthew Farrell still goes by the name. Well, he goes by Boom, but like, you can't deny that glow up. That's just, no, you can get an article, but you can't deny the name that God chose for him through this organization. Anyway.
Which would happen at a penthouse in Chicago. Floor-to-ceiling windows, high ceilings, a real luxury location. Though something seemed a little bit off. There was almost no furniture in the entire place.
Spooky, no furniture. Literally a Gen Z's nightmare. A place with no, there's no, they don't hoard here. I don't even know what to say about that, besides that's like the like mood lighting now that's coming into this video. Like, that's the scariest part of this, is that there wasn't a bunch of gross moldy secondhand furniture in their apartment. Interesting. Anyway,
little did Matthew know at the time, Koa and Wizel had only just moved in, and did so using donations from their Facebook followers, supplemented of course by Koa's classes on how to visualize the future, as well as Pearl Devon, a sexual energy course that she sold online. During Matthew's visits to the penthouse, Wizel and Koa would bombard him with information about aspirational visualization and the power of manifesting one's dreams.
So
being
evil.
Young, naive, and curious, Matthew was eager to learn more, not just about this philosophy, but about the pair's way of life. Why were they so odd? How did they live like this?
Convenient for the white man's agenda. Whose agenda is it, Wiz? Oh, he's not listening. Whose agenda is it, Boom?
Koa's.
True.
Generalissimo Koa's.
There is no other agenda.
During Matthew's second year of college, and under the ever-increasing control of Wizel and Koa,
Wizel, but it's so abusive to get personalized attention from an adult through I mean, everyone's an adult here, but you know, maybe yeah, it's like in their minds they're not. It's like someone talking to you and asking you questions and giving you that attention because everyone is so like destroyed by lack of intimacy, and intimacy being the scariest thing in their lives and vulnerability not being real, that something like that feels like an assault. Like it's something that you definitely should be canceled for, which is, you know, exactly why we're here today, watching Kira TV's attempt.
Things started to escalate with the group. Facebook comments had joked that the group looked like a cult, so Wiesel embraced the joke and officially created Tumple. He would unironically say, yes, Tumple is a cult. The hierarchy consisted of the founding members, with callud described as the leader using the title General, and Wiesel as the so-called second-in-command. Their first official member...
Not true, but okay, General Koa was not the leader of Tumple. Tumple and Daylife Army are two different things. That's been said countless times. Don't really need to say it again, but yeah, it's not the same. Chronologically, this makes no sense. But, you know, whatever. They're trying.
Member was, of course, Matthew. His role was to assist in the recruitment of others, predominantly by creating propaganda videos to post on social media, and between the three of them,
Is that how we
they
did
managed
it?
to grow Tumple to over 50 members. The cult, however, needed more funding, so they set up the Tumple website, where members could pay a subscription fee of $24 per month, granting them access to a private group and secret documents written by Wiesel himself.
$24, guys. That is less than a Hulu Disney Plus bundle for the month. Just to let you know how good it was back in 2016. For less than Hulu plus Disney Plus, you could get into this loyalty program. I don't think that anyone ever called it a loyalty program because that's kind of weird, a little satanic. But $24 a month, if that's even, you know, granted that everything in this video is in fact true, and, you know, $24 a month, just let that sink in. Like, what's what can you get in the Pain Matrix for $24 a month? You can't even get like a subscription to football TV. You can't even watch Major League Soccer for $24 a month. Anyway.
Eventually, they evolved the concept where Koa implemented a 7-tier system that rewarded the most devoted followers with access to more of these sacred documents, and yes, that is
Spooky.
what the files were officially called. As the group gained followers and influence, Wiesel and Koa grew more and more delusional. Now, not only were they a cult, but they were a cult
That's
with
right.
defined purpose. They were ordered to change the group's name from Tumple to Daylife Army. Ordered by who, you ask? The G-Fed, which stands for Galactic Federation, the alien government that they now serve. The mothership would send instructions directly to Koa.
The mothership, yes. Let's just make it sensational. Let's just, you know, by the way, I don't know if I said the title of the video. It's the stupidest alien cult on Facebook. And they've changed the title of the video like 8 times, which is just, you know, I guess a clickbait approach to just get new viewers, which, you know, I think in the beginning they were worried because no one was really that mad at it and it was just creating positive attention, so they're like, let's just make it as fucking ham, excuse my language, as ham as possible. Make it an alien cult, alien not being a word that anyone here uses at all for whatever they're attempting to describe. But anyway, let's move on.
Through the pendulum that she carried. This pendulum not only acted as a conduit between the G-Fed and Koa, but also gave her the ability to divine truth about any situation or individual, essentially making her omniscient.
Pretty
the
lit,
instructions
right?
from the Alien Council did not stop at renaming the group. They were also tasked with saving humanity. They had to create what they called the pleasure matrix, the concept of putting all wants above needs. To accomplish this, they renamed their followers to pleasure soldiers.
Also, I don't think the word pleasure soldier has ever been, like, used, ever. That's kind of gross. And that's not how you spell soldiers, but, like, if I spent this whole time, like, nitpicking on spelling and shit, we wouldn't get anywhere. But pleasure soldiers, maybe that's how Matthew remembers it, because that's whatever. He always wanted to make things weird. But yeah, not really what's going on there. But anyway.
Who were tasked with fighting the evil of nightlife. And to fully fight this evil, followers would need to escape the pain matrix, which is the modern racist, exploitative and capitalist society. In order to escape the pain matrix and fight for the pleasure matrix, followers would renounce their life, give up their job, their friends, their families, and donate all assets to the Daylife army.
Okay. Does anyone like renounce your life? That's a really interesting way of putting it. Getting sober, stopping insane cycles of addiction outside of just, sobriety, just, leaving all of those cycles. That's renouncing your life. So your life is just, it's hard to even dignify that one with a response, but it's funny that renouncing life is what is tagged here. So just totally, that's what it is. Just a life cult that just renounces life. Maybe renouncing death, given that, no one who came here and actually did the thing and followed orders ever died. No one's dead. So, interesting. Renounce life. Okay, let's continue.
In other words, cut themselves off from everything and everyone, sell all
Look
their
at these
worldly
good
possessions,
times.
and give all of their money to Koa and Wizel. Of the 50 Temple members, 38 of them were scared away by this shifting direction, which left 12 pleasure soldiers to combat the evils at the behest of the Alien Council, after, of course, they gave all their money to Koa.
I like how they just made those numbers just like... It's hilarious that this video is like... It is clearly just, it's just taking from previous attempted cancellations and just making it into like a meme format for the viewers by, kind of like, it seems like a lonely Englishman with crooked teeth who's like trying to make it relevant for the new generation. I mean, it's funny how, one piece of content like a 2020 cancellation will just keep on morphing and morphing. It's like, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. It just keeps on going. And it's all washing. It is all washing, which is the great part. It's social washing. It's getting, even if this is mostly lies, like even the little bits that get out there, like, all right, keep washing, keep thinking you're canceling us. It's great. Where was I going with that specifically? Oh yeah, they just make up numbers, 50, 12, and because, no research was done and no one here was contacted by this person, but we just take it on just like, okay, those are the numbers, 50, 12. It's funny. Anyway.
Next stage of control could begin. To this point, most of the disciples were spread out, but by the influx of money and willingness to do anything for the cause, this would allow the Daylife army to move to a physical location. This would upgrade the ability for the pair to exert control over the members and make it even harder for them to leave. Luckily, Wizel's mother owned a cabin in Washington.
It's so hard to leave, but somehow 38 of the 50 left with zero problem because of a name change as governed by an alien mothership. Just to be clear in the events that followed it.
And so that is exactly where they went and set up their own community.
12 people
Matthew was,
living
of course,
in a
one of the
small
first people
cabin.
to arrive at said community.
Totally
and despite giving up all worldly possessions, despite working without pay to support the leadership and, of course, assisting in the recruitment of many others, Matthew was required to pay $480 per month while undergoing his training to become a specialist.
Specialist, by the way, you don't have to pronounce the U. You don't have to be retarded when consuming Daylife stuff, but it's your journey. It's your world. For sure, $480 a month. I'm just wondering, does that sound like it's hard to anyone? Does that sound hard to that's for room and board and like an unbelievable amount, like quality and quantity of personalized attention for $480 a month. Does anyone's rent less than $480 a month? Is anyone's rent less than half of $480 a month these days? If you're watching this video, like, can you live on that? Can you have a roof over your head and food for that? Just wondering. I mean, let alone education. I mean, let alone what a college education costs, even trade school, even like what $480 is like the price of 2 textbooks, and that's a month. People are entitled in like a very, and I'm not gonna say I am separate from that. I've worked on it a lot, but $480 a month, people are entitled. And if that was the case, things were easy back then. That was good times. $480, woo, that's good. All right.
Much like a multi-level marketing program, Matthew's specialist certification would allow him to train other recruits to create online content which had the express goal of recruiting more soldiers. The training consisted of whatever
Matthew Farrell was
he
never a
wanted to
content
do.
manager,
This often
by the way.
involved cleaning, participating in rituals, creating weird arts and crafts, and a lot of mutual masturbation.
You gotta just pause and clarify that never at any point ever in this military has there ever been mutual masturbation. I don't even think that term has even been used. Like, I don't think the words mutual masturbation have even been uttered. It's never been considered. It's never really been a thing. I mean, a lot more people would probably be here if this was a mutual masturbation cult, but it's not. And then the arts and crafts, I have questions about that. Like, what kind of arts and crafts were going on? Is that nefarious? And also, first of all, I don't know that any arts and crafts were going on. If they were, and Matthew is recalling that, it kind of sounds like he's a little bit reminiscent of, getting to do some arts and crafts. Good for the guy, He's, having a good time between mutual masturbation sessions. Oof.
The rest of his time was spent trying to make money for the group and reach new people. The cult created their own reward system for this work, and instead of paying in cash, they awarded Matthew and other members of the community with tomb credit, which could be exchanged for favors or services within the community. Being the longest member and likely the closest to the founding pair of Cora and Wizel, Matthew found himself the subject of their experimentation. They encouraged Matthew to explore his sexuality with black men, and at some point,
I don't think, just for the record, I don't think Matthew was ever told to explore sexuality in any way, because we know what Matthew would have done with when Matthew goes and explores sexuality. He certainly explores in places that he certainly should not be, and I'm not going to talk about a full history of where that exploration was before he left the Daylight, or before he arrived at the Daylight Army, or even some of the things that he violated, some of the standards, sexual standards that he violated, that led to him being removed from the Daylight Army. I don't have to get into all of that, because I'm not offering back a cancellation just because this is an attempted cancellation. I just wanted to comment on the term explored sexuality, because that certainly was not going on. But yeah.
Point Wizel even asked him if he, quote, likes black cock.
That's not even a thing that happened. So just for the record, Wizel never asked Matthew if he liked black cock. Just want to say that loud and clear, that did not ever happen. But it's compelling. It's sensational. Yeah.
Following this extensive and repeated questioning, the pair pressured Matthew to have sex with a black man.
Never happened. Again, literally. There was never any pressurized sexual moment in this cult. We've been labeled as a sex cult. it's actually like a cult that not very much sex occurs in. I remember like my mom, when I was joining this cult, like what she had to say about it. She was not worried that I was joining a sex cult. She was worried that I was joining a no sex cult. And, you know, maybe that's a little bit closer to the truth. But yeah, pressured black guy sex, no. Just no. Nope.
Despite his insistence of being straight and not at all attracted to men of any kind. To express to you just how badly they had broken
I like how they pull up like the gayest picture of Matt. They pull up like the gayest picture of Matt, and it's cute. He looks good when he's you know, embracing his gayness. It actually looks like he's like a person. You should see him when he's trying to embrace the whatever other demonic thing he's trying to do. But yeah, it's funny that anyone would leave interaction with Matt and be like, yeah, it's totally, he's so straight, man. It's just, he just loves women. Anyway.
Matthew, in the 3 or so years since they had crossed paths, at this time, he thought, if somebody's about to be your general who rules every aspect of your life, you really want them to be right about everything. If they told him he was not straight and he needed to do this, he would do it. And so he did.
All right.
While the community at the cabin was struggling, living in what many would describe as abject poverty, Wiesel and Coa spent the majority of the community's money on designer clothes.
I don't know if most people would describe what was going on in that cabin as abject poverty, but that says a lot about where people are at. That, you know, I'm not going to give the details of what living in any of these situations was actually like. Abject poverty, though? Interesting way to describe things. Yeah. Oh, and designer clothes for everyone? Sure, yeah. Wiz and Koa just spent all the money on Prada, and yeah, that's their way of doing things. Yeah.
Which, of course, were always white. The basic needs of their followers were not a concern. If anyone were to question this situation, they were reprimanded and told it was their fault for not visualizing or manifesting hard enough. Eventually, however, the group opted to leave the cabin for reasons unknown. Instead of living in poverty with a roof over their head, they now lived on the streets, but some of them were privileged enough to sleep in the group's Toyota Corolla. At this stage, the group were instructed to reconnect with old friends and family whom they were originally told to cut out of their life.
Just to be clear, no one was ever told to cut family members out of their life. That's just a lie. This is not a thing. Yeah. I mean, family relationships have been built by this cult, so just a lie, just lies. I like it. Anyway,
goal was to solicit large sums of money while also begging in the street for change. When this didn't work out, they were coerced into sex work. Matthew, for instance, was instructed to make profiles on dating websites and apps, setting his initial price at $2,000 plus travel expenses. Koa made it clear to Matthew that he would keep precisely $0 from the arrangement and that all money he made would go directly to her. When the plan didn't work out and Matthew was unable to provide, Koa insisted he would instead become a jet-setting escort, traveling the globe to satisfy customers in order to provide for the rest of the group.
That totally sounds like something that General Koa would come up with. Yeah, totally. Jet-setting escort that would fly around the world. That's totally not like something that Boom would have like wanted to be or had expressed any sort of desire to be. Anyway, there was never a sex work component to this army ever. In fact, multiple people were sex workers in the Pain Matrix before they came here and were told they must give up sex work even to show up here. So, yeah, multiple. So, if anything, we're taking sex workers off the street and teaching them that there's another way to live. But anyway, it's I get it. It's a compelling narrative. An old narrative. They're not even on to any of the new stuff. Like, there's been years of content and things. Like, it's been lit and nothing. Just we're still on to the old cancellation, like the one from so long ago. It's like, I'm not gonna lie and say it's not a little annoying, not because like these things are being brought to light, it's so hurtful. Oh, it's like, no, it's just that no one is like bothered to do any, like, looking at anything that's actually happening. They're going on some conjecture from like 2018 and 2019. Like, come on, like, can we get it together, media? That's a rhetorical question.
In reality, this also didn't work out. Instead, the stranded group of homeless soldiers of pleasure were encouraged to beg strangers on dating apps for a few dollars here and there, while claiming they were stranded and needed the money to get somewhere. After the group scraped together a decent sum of money, instead of putting it towards accommodation
By the way, that's
or
not sex
basics
work.
for the community,
I don't
Wizell and
know what to
Koa
tell
yet
you.
again put their own wants ahead of the needs of the community, which shouldn't come as a surprise considering the core tenets of the pleasure matrix state you should give in to your own wants before your needs. This came in the form of...
I don't think that has ever been presented as a form of giving in. Once your wants are just the things that are so bad and so wrong, and that you should just give in to them and not care about anything else, and just let all your needs go. That's insane. Anyway, the pay matrix is insane, so none of this is that big of a surprise, but...
of a new car. The starving, homeless and begging followers who raised the money to buy said car were forbidden to enter it under any circumstance.
That never
Matthew,
happened.
upon learning this fact, was
No
close
one
to breaking
raised
point.
no
The
one
absurd
raised that
orders,
money.
the neglect, the abuse, it was becoming too much. He was sacrificing his physical and mental health on a daily basis. He was being forced into sex work, mostly with
Never
men,
happened.
trying to provide for his general, who he now was realizing did not care about him even slightly. Over the next 2 months, Matthew stayed with a man he met on Grindr in San Diego. For doing chores, the man donated him over $1,000 in multiple payments, most of which he still gave to Koa.
Hold on, is donating, like, it just said that in exchange for doing chores around the house, Matthew was paid $1,000 as a donation? That sounds like that guy, that, I don't know, that's between them. I don't think that's how donations work. And by the way, neither Temple nor Day Life Army takes donations, so it's a jumble of different words and terms and whatnot. But yeah, it's funny. Over $1,000, over dozens. What is 1,000 divided by 24? Is a $35 a day to clean his house? That just sounds like a service. Oh, and I'm sure the chores that Matthew did were impeccable. I'm sure he did a great job at this guy's house, just making it spick and span. I'm sure that that's what he spent his time there, not, totally spiraling and stealing prescription medication and alcohol from the guy. This guy just basically got used hard by Matthew. But, yeah, that's, well, like, again, this was 2018. It's funny. All right.
That same month, Koa had another idea, another scheme. This time, instead of the sexual energy courses or the cult recruitment, she would create an actual product and sell it to the people. The product was people's souls. Koa claimed she was in possession of all of humanity's souls and would be kind enough to allow people to buy them back. She would not market this herself. Instead, Matthew was assigned to send messages to every white person he knew, explaining why they should send him money that would go directly to Koa, and Matthew would earn some tomb credits. Not long after this, Matthew had reached the end of his ability to be manipulated by Wizell and Koa. He broke these standards, turning to alcohol and caffeine,
which he stole,
before leaving the group in December of 2018.
Luckily,
he
there's
was
other
able to
things that
return
he
to
was
his
doing
family's
to
home
violate
and
in there,
escape
but
the
yeah.
cult, though they didn't stop trying to solicit his return. He first received an email from the Day Life Army stating the following: your unwillingness and or inability to fully commit your financial, social and or personal capital to this organization's mission makes a relationship with DLM that serves its commission to expand the pleasure matrix very difficult.
Yeah, that totally sounds like a courting email, not like saying you unhandled debts. It's totally them trying to get Matthew back in by saying you owe us $29,000. Interesting.
A year later, the army sent another email stating that Matthew still owed them over $20,000. After Matthew left, it wasn't long before other members started to follow suit. The incredibly harsh living conditions, the increasing narcissistic delusions of the founders, the psychotic demands of unspeakable actions in order to provide for the pair, and the evidence that it was possible to leave without immediate repercussions was enough to break the spell. Since then, many of the members, including Matthew...
By the way, do they look good? I mean, you saw some images of Matthew when he was in the cult, and that, like, that's what happens when he goes back to the pain matrix. That's what he ends up looking like. Some of this stuff is, like, past an intellectual thing. It's not really something you have to look at or think about, or, like, you can just look at their faces in the pain matrix. You can look at what the pain matrix does to people and how they look. They look crazy. He looks crazy. They both look crazy, but look at Matthew, the star of the show here. Oof. I don't know. Adderall is not for everyone at all.
Spent their time trying to share their experience to bring awareness to how their lives were taken over by Koa and Wiesel. They want to prevent others from making the same mistake. Matthew has an Instagram page where he shares his story, warning about tactics used to take advantage of your situation and manipulate you over long periods of time until you don't know anything except what they want you to.
Excuse me, a page that he was paid to make by, a background, a guy behind the scenes who paid him to make that site. So, anyway.
I didn't know what was ironic, what was sincere, fake, or real. All I knew is that I was going to follow the next order and keep going at all costs. After years of therapy and counselling, Matthew is still rebuilding relationships that Wiesel and Koa made him destroy. Other members of the group, like Fu, was disappointed when she found out only white people were promoted to positions of power. She was accused by Wiesel and Koa of being irresponsible and ruining the group's integrity with...
that's just too lit.
her pussy.
Oh, if that happened, that's great. Also, is it like a crime to call someone irresponsible? I won't even talk about that person specifically, but like, it really hurts. They called me irresponsible, and they said I was trying to ruin the integrity with my pussy. That's a really specific complaint.
This is not an anti-racist group, said Fu.
Also, yeah, we've never claimed to be an anti-racist group. That's a specific kind of group that would claim that, and that is certainly not what's going on here. And all of the race stuff here is hilarious because it's like very clear. It's just whoever the author is projecting their own insecurities and their own issues around race onto us that really we're not. It's not what's going on here. We're not an anti-racist coalition. This isn't for justice for any particular people. This isn't, it's, Anyway.
Before joining, Fu, who is transgendered, was told by Koa that her hormone treatment would be paid for and that she would be able to transition safely. But she says Wiesel and Koa caused her to miss multiple medical appointments because
is that how it
let her
went?
use her car or access her money. What Fu found out
it's hilarious
was that the DLA army did not care about racism or helping others. They cared only about wielding absolute power over their followers, and not just to enrich themselves, which came as a direct result, but due to their unchecked narcissism. Since most of the followers quit, luckily the social media presence of the DLA army fell off in 2019 when they left Facebook. This, however, didn't stop their activity entirely, and they still recruited 3 new members after this point.
Exactly. They're still talking. This is 2019. That's been a long. Still where they're at that is where they left off. Nothing notable to report after which is basically what's going on, which is a disservice to you as the viewer who's trying to get all of the cult deets. I mean, if you're gonna cancel us, like, use some current data. There's stuff out there. There's stuff that you could talk about. It's, but they don't. They just want to, it's like one white woman decided to create, the story on us, and it's just gonna, and whatever. If that's just the story that keeps on going and spreading, so be it. It's washing. It is certainly washing.
They remained active on Twitter and Instagram into 2020, and you could sometimes see posts from the group staying in motel rooms or in the desert. During the peak of the pandemic,
Those are the
group
two
was still
options.
active and posting pictures of themselves, some members claiming that they've been sleeping in tents on the street. On June 14th, 2020, Tumble tweeted, "We are seeking no new members currently, and understand at DLA Army is seeking none either." To this day, the group is still active. There are still more members than just the founding pair of Koa and Wizel, such as the Duchess of Daylife and DeJesus of Daylife. They still abuse and manipulate people for their own benefit. They still perform their rituals and live by the standards, and they still wear all white.
And that's it. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, what do you think? What are your thoughts? What's going on for y'all from that? I mean, I think it's hilarious that this cancellation was so just poorly orchestrated, to the fact that it has affected zero change in our lives, except for like a lot of people being interested again in, you know, what's going on, which is what always happens. And like, that's what I'm saying, like, you can try to put, you know, disinformation out there. People will sniff and find the actual truth in whatever's going on and come closer, or just disseminate that information further and further and further. So, you know, keep it coming. Keep on rolling out keep it rolling it out. I mean, if that's your way of washing, if that's the most vulnerable that you can be, then enjoy it. Anyway, yeah. Do you like these kind of videos? I feel like I have to be like a YouTube personality when I end this. Like, are these the kind of videos that you like? Like and subscribe. Tell us in the comments if you want to see more of these. Like, whatever. Do as you're going to do. And yeah. But yes, you know, wash it all. Cash.me/$washitall. PayPal.me/washitall. You should be washing. That's just, you know, that's the Funimation slogan, is you should be watching. You should wash, because that's how you buy your soul back. Yeah, the things, you know, buying your soul back is a real thing. So, yeah, get into it. See you later.